Welcome to Boxing Predictions, where today we're talking about Tyson Fury's stoppage victory over Tom Schwarz and who is next for Tyson Fury. Now, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button, jump down to the comment section and let me know what you thought about the fight and where Tyson Fury moves forward. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button and the notification bell. I really do appreciate it, and you'll be notified of all the upcoming videos. So last night, Tyson Fury stops Tom Schwarz in 2 rounds in pretty destructive fashion, pretty comprehensive and fairly easily. Now, we spoke about in the prediction video for this fight that we spoke about levels, we spoke about the difference in quality. Now Tom Schwarz, not a terrible fighter, but made to look completely ordinary. We saw a Tom Schwarz that was game, that was pressing, that wasn't scared, but we saw a Tom Schwarz that was incredibly limited, lacking in ideas, struggling to, come up against the sort of movement and level of skill that he was facing in Tyson Fury. We spoke about the fact that this is the sort of opponent that's ready-made to make Tyson Fury look exceptional, because he is one-dimensional, he is limited, and the reason why is because Tom Schwarz is incredibly inexperienced, pretty much no amateur background, been learning on the job, so those high-level skills that you might get from an amateur background, amateur training, he does not have. So he is, as we say, very limited. Hands up, presses the action, tries to throw big shots. And in this fight, if in that second round, when he moved forward, Tyson was going to the corner, he decided to throw some big shots, like he always does. He missed those shots. Tyson Fury landed a couple of exceptionally, on the button shots, busted up his nose, and it was kind of, on the way down from then on. Tyson Fury was just moving with elegance around that ring, avoiding pretty much every shot. And we saw that clip that will be a highlight reel for Tyson Fury for years to come, where Tom Schwarz was through 5 or 6 shots and he just avoided all of them on the ring. And he moved out of that laughing, and he was like, Tyson Fury knew from that moment, this fight is over in a matter of seconds. And then he managed to, detonate a few good shots and drop Tom Schwarz. And, within a few seconds, it was over. The referee, comes between them and stops the fight. So realistically, in terms of, Tyson Fury's, CV record, this is not a great fight on it. We're talking about Tom Schwarz, who, as I say, is an adequate fighter. He's a guy that will, possibly float in the top 30, top 40. He'll beat some guys in the top 30, top 40, but he'll probably lose to them as well. He'll never have the adequate skill to be a top 10 guy, unfortunately for him. Okay, this doesn't really move him up any really in the rankings. It doesn't really, it doesn't really help Tyson Fury, apart from really giving him some real highlight footage for that American audience, which is obviously what they wanted. They wanted to, put a show on in America and get them on board. And I think they would have done that. I think, the mission is complete, particularly on the back of Joshua's defeat, just recently. This sort of skill, bravado, arrogance, cockiness, skill, joking about in the ring is something that I think, fans are going to like, so they will have ticked all the boxes there. But the question here, the real big question is, what's next for Tyson Fury? what is next? Who's next? So you have to look at the other fighters that are kicking about. As we said, we saw Anthony Joshua be defeated by Andy Ruiz Jr. Recently for his 3 titles. Now, in all probability, they will have a second fight. I mean, I will be absolutely shocked if Joshua, we don't get an announcement, in the next month or so, that is cast iron in stone with the definite dates, the definite locations. We saw immediately in the ring, Hearn was saying that they're going to be fighting, they're going to activate the rematch later on down in the year, and it's going to be in the UK. There's been talk in the last week that Ruiz wants it in Mexico or whatever. I find it highly unlikely. I think as this is a rematch, they're going to do everything in their powers to get Joshua the belts back. It's going to be in the UK. It's going to be in either Cardiff. It's going to be in Wembley or whatever later on this year. Possibly the O2, as it's going to be November, right? So I don't think we're going to see either of those guys. Then we've got the next 2 guys, Wilder and Ortiz. In theory, they semi-announced that there is going to be a rematch. I don't think it's been really confirmed. There's not a date for that yet either. But in theory, it is lined up. And to be honest, it's a fight I want to see. I want to see Wilder versus Ortiz. We know that Wilder kind of has struggled with people with more skill. We saw it in the Ortiz fight. So I would like to see that. I think it would be an interesting matchup. And if that's taking place, in the next 3 or 4 months' time, that means that they're not going to be opponents for Tyson Fury. Then you have to look at other people that are kind of credible opponents, and we're talking about people like Povetkin, Pulev, Parker, Kalnaki, Usyk. These are all credible opponents to Tyson Fury, but the risk to reward for these guys, is not in their favour. They're all good opponents for Fury, and they'll all be good guys on on his record for sure. But from their point of view, I know that Tyson Fury is the lineal champion, doesn't hold these belts, and I think these sorts of guys, they want to get their hands possibly on belts or back on titles, get these straps. So I'm not sure that in terms of risk to reward, fighting these guys, if they fight Fury and Fury beats them, they're on the scrap heap. They're so far down the food chain. I don't think they want to take that risk. I think they somehow want to get themselves in a title shot or fight lower ranked guys to maintain their rankings, okay? So I just can't see it. Now, what is interesting is that next month we've got a card at the O2 with 2 heavyweight fights. The first one is Dillian Whyte versus Rivas. And then on the undercard, you've got Derek Chisora versus Spilka. I believe that Tyson Fury's next opponent lies within these 2 fights. That's my opinion. Unless something happens with Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz and we suddenly get Fury Wilder, Fury Ortiz, right? I think it's going to come from these fights. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see, if Dillian Whyte takes Oscar Rivas, I wouldn't be surprised if it's announced almost immediately that Fury is going to fight Dillian Whyte. Now, again, I know that the risk to reward is not there, particularly for Dillian Whyte, where he's been on the verge of title fights, for so long. But I just think that because of the title picture at the moment, Dillian Whyte, like a lot of these guys that are kind of waiting, there's a long way for them to be getting these title shots because most of them are wrapped up with Anthony Joshua and Ruiz. I've often thought in the last couple of weeks that with Anthony Joshua, if he loses again to Ruiz, we might not see Joshua again. And if Ruiz wins, I think it's probably cast iron fact that he will probably fight Deontay Wilder in his next fight and unify all the belts. I think that's a guarantee. So anyone else is not going to have an opportunity to fight for any of the titles, until the back end of 2020, most likely. So I think that Dillian Whyte is a perfect opponent for Fury. But if that doesn't come, we're talking about Del Boy here. Del Boy and Spilka. I mean, Spilka, I think, I remember when he got sparked up by Wilder some years ago. I don't think this is, I think even a Chisora, that has lost to in almost every big fight will probably take out Spilka. He could be that, that another kind of, like we just saw here, another fight that doesn't really mean much, but it's going to be a fight that will be interesting, and they'll probably put it on in America as again, and it will showcase Fury's skill. We saw what Fury did to Chisora in particularly the second fight, how devastating it was. There was just a ridiculous chasm of skill there, and we'll probably see that again. So yeah, just to round up, Tyson Fury put on a bit of a clinic in 4 and a bit minutes or however long it lasted last night, but it didn't really mean much. Okay, it's all about the next fight and the fight after that. I will say he looked in good shape. He's continuing to improve upon what he's done in the last year. He's looking happy and healthy, which is also a good thing. We want to see these big fights, so Fury has to win these fights. But as I say, I think moving forward, there's the potential of a Wilder fight, but if Wilder fights Ortiz, I think we're going to see either Dillian Whyte or Derek Chisora with Fury in October, November this year. Now, let me know what you think in the comments section below, and obviously remember to give me the thumbs up, and of course, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified each and every time the video is uploaded. There's going to be a range of videos coming in the next couple of weeks for all of these big heavyweight fights that have already been scheduled. We'll see you soon. This has been Boxing Predictions.